You're listening to certified financial planner Doug Goldstein, host of the Goldstein on Gelt Show, www.goldsteinongelt.com.
Okay, I'm very excited to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show Ellen Rogin, who is a CPA, meaning she's an expert in tax, and she's also a CFP, like I am, a certified financial planner, and she's the New York Times best-selling author of Picture Your Prosperity, Smart Money Moves to Turn Your Vision into Reality. You know, Ellen, a lot of people talk about imagining, and as you use the word picturing, does that really help to make you more successful?
Oh, yeah. Picturing is one of the most powerful tools that we have. I mean, if you think about it, people think in pictures. They don't think in charts and graphs or even numbers. And we have the ability to focus your brain in ways that have things show up in sometimes miraculous ways, but really it's a lot about brain science in terms of why this works.
So explain to me what that means to picture like financial planning.
Yeah, so you've probably seen athletes like before the Olympics or before a competition go through mental rehearsal. It's well established that that's a powerful tool. Well, this can work for other parts of your life as well, and it has to do with a part of your brain called the Reticular Activating System, the RAS, and it's about the size of your pinky, and it's at the base of your skull, and it helps to filter information. For example, if you're at a party and someone yells, "Doug," from across the room, you would pay attention to that, but maybe not all the clinking glasses or the air conditioning unit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a picture in your mind of what you want to accomplish for yourself, then you start to filter and notice when things show up for you.
So let's dive into that in sort of a practical sense.
Sure.
I think a lot about retiring, because not that I'm ready to yet, but it's not that far anymore. I've been working 25 years, so it must be around the corner. And I begin to think about it, and my wife and I talk about what we would do and the hobbies we have. How do we turn that into something practical?
Okay, so a couple ways you can do that. So part of it is thinking in incredible detail about what that will look like for the two of you or for you and yourself. Like, what will you be doing when you retire? Where are you going to be living? And imagining with incredible detail what that's like, feeling what it'll feel like to do that, and then with that image in mind, it helps to set into motion. It's like kind of like a visual financial plan. Then it requires action, right? You can't just sit around waiting for the universe to provide and picturing this like lovely retirement by the water. It might be that image, but then taking the right actions to actually have that happen.
Mm-hmm.
What I think sometimes happens when people think about their retirement is they just go, oh yeah, I want to be 65 and I want to have X amount of dollars to live on and I just want to get out of this job, but they're not thinking of what they'd actually be doing. That emotional component, that feeling it, helps put this huge why behind then, having a financial advisor or going online, doing some kind of actual planning behind it.
Do you think it motivates people to do it? In other words, is someone who imagines being on the beach or traveling or building furniture in his shed, because that's something he really wants to do, is that going to allow him to then get a little more tachlis, a little more nuts and bolts and say, okay, now I really realize why I need to put aside $2,000 a month to save for the next 20 years?
I think it helps to add excitement behind it for sure. I mean, if someone's not a good saver and that's just not part of their emotional makeup, just picturing it isn't going to be the only thing they need to do. But, what I found in terms of like sharing these ideas in groups that I speak to or with individuals is that when you can start to imagine something in incredible detail, it adds excitement to it. It gives you a why. And that is motivating to people. It is the reason that maybe you put money away for down the road versus spending it today. Mm-hmm. And you can actually do this with real images too, to keep reminding yourself of this.
What do you mean?
Well, one of the things that I like to speak about is actually creating a real prosperity picture for yourself. And so maybe you're familiar with creating a vision board. It's that idea of taking images that represent goals that you have, then really getting in touch with what they mean to you. And the difference with a prosperity picture is putting it on a kind of different frame. So goals that you have are with images that represent things that you want to have in the future, go on the top part of the right side of your board, and images that represent things you want now would go on the left side, and things that would require money would go on the top, and things that require less money would go on the bottom. So let me give you an example. I have an image of an airplane on mine, and to me that represents this idea of taking a whole year off and traveling the world. So probably would require money to do that, unless I guess I got hired to speak all over the world. But let's say it requires some money and isn't going to happen probably 5 years, till 5 years or longer. So that would be on the upper left-hand side of my board. And then the idea is with these images on there, I can look at them daily, which I do, and can then create a visual. It's the basis of a visual financial plan. So if I know I want to do that, how do I make that happen? And those are things that I can work with to try to turn that into an actual reality.
We're talking with Ellen Rogin, who is a certified financial planner. She's also the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Picture Your Prosperity. Ellen's been, in fact, explaining to us about this concept of picturing prosperity. She imagines an El Al plane on her board flying her to Israel to spend some time here. Well, some kind of plane anyway, at least to travel around the world. Ellen, explain to me a little bit more. This concept of a vision board, what does this look like? What does it actually look like? Is this a piece of paper? Is this a big piece of cardboard?
So,
is it on the computer?
It can be any kind of board that you want, but imagine that if you took a piece of paper and turned it landscape, so the long side up on top, and you divide it into 4 sections. It can be on a board. Mine is, a little bit bigger than that, and it's a little bit on cardboard. In the book, we actually put pictures in there to get people started, but you can take pictures from actual photos that you have or magazines or just find them online. And then once you find these images that represent things that you want to see show up in your life, then you put them on the board based on how much money it'll take to achieve that goal and when you want to have it. And
okay, let's apply that. Sure. I just want to make sure that we're converting this into something practical. So let's say that I put up on my board, let's say I have a board like yours and I put up an airplane because I want to be doing some traveling. Mm-hmm. What's the next step in order to convert that into something actionable?
So where do you want to go on your trip?
I would like to go to New Zealand.
Oh, me too. Okay.
I'll meet you there.
Yes, that would be awesome. So, and when do you want to go?
I would like to go in about 3 years.
Okay.
No,
so
4 years.
Well, so it's probably on the upper part because it would require some money, and probably on the left side of your board because that's for goals that you want to have happen 5 years or less. So that's where it would be on your board, and then I would say, okay, maybe what's your first step to figuring out how to make this happen? Do you know how much it would cost?
How much it's going to cost. Right, that's the issue. I think, for a trip with my wife and some kids, we're easily looking at, $15,000, $20,000. It's an expensive trip.
Okay, so $15,000 to $20,000, and then as a planner, you could start to say, okay, do we have that money now? If I'm going to be saving that, over the next 4 years, what do I need to do each month to make that happen?
Mm-hmm. So really what's going on here is you're helping the client or the investor or the who's ever planning to really see what it is that he wants. But at the end of the day, there's still a money component to this.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is for many of the goals there are, but maybe you had on your board, maybe you want to start a meditation practice. Maybe that requires a little money, but not much. Or maybe you already have one, but you want to do it more.
Oh, I want to do it in New Zealand, though. That's the problem.
Okay. So that part of it, that image of someone meditating might go on the lower part of your board, which doesn't require any money. And the interesting thing is when we do workshops, sometimes people go, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize so many of the things I want don't even require money.
Nice.
And there's this appreciation for that. And the ones that do, you can turn into a plan. The other ones, okay, go for it. Make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Ellen, listen, this is fascinating. It's really a different way, I think, for a lot of people to look at investing. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time. But tell me, in the last few seconds, how can people follow you and follow your work?
A great place to find some resources is at ellenrogin.com. That's ELLENROGIN.com. And there's all sorts of resources there. I am on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. I'd love to connect. I'd love to hear what people are up to in terms of how they're visioning their goals. That'd be the best place to find me.
Okay, we will put a link to all of that, in fact, at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Ellen Rogin, thanks so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Check out all of Doug's money ideas at goldsteinongelt.com. Doug specializes in helping people who live outside the United States handle their U.S. investment accounts. If you have a question that you would like answered on the air or off, contact Doug at his website or send him an email to doug@profile-financial.com.